All right, we are going live. Hello and welcome. Hello, it's Sunday night if you're on the West Coast like I am, and it's creeping up on Monday morning if you're on the East Coast. But anyway, it's another installment of Sunday Night KloobySnacks. It's going to be a brief session tonight because Abby, my co-author, partner in crime, is not with us tonight. And I don't know how much I can say about this, but this is the truth. She's actually out of town on a shoot for her first paid acting assignment, and I can't really say much else about it other than that, but it's another feather in her cap. If you've been following these installments of Sunday Night KloobySnacks, you know what a remarkable young lady she is. And yeah, she missed 1 week for Coachella, the music festival, and she missed this week because she's shooting a commercial. She met with the stylist earlier today, and she understands. Anyway, it's great. Marianne is up there with her momager, and it's a big achievement for her. And I can't say too much about the brand and who it is and what's going on, but it's exciting after years and years of her working at it, and the auditions and the lessons and the classes and the showcases and the audition after audition without hearing anything at all, and sticking with it because she loves it so much. Paid her, right? And it's all like within this energetic time that she's getting ready to go to Fordham next month. We're inside of a month now before we move her to New York City. So it's just really incredible. I'm super proud of my daughter. But let's go. The show must go on. So I'm going to handle all of the duties myself. By now, I'm Jeff Kluback. And, the KloobySnacks is really like the fifth. It's the fifth made for social media book that I've done. The original Get a Clue in 52 had 5 categories to it. And then I worked with a co-author, Vipul Dayal, to do the entrepreneur edition. And then I went back to solo and did the coaching edition, Get a Clue in 52 for coaches. And then got a co-author who's also Integrity Game certified coach, speaker trainer, Sue Matheson from Australia. And we did the speaker edition. And then heading into this year, I had this idea that I wanted to brand or popularize my motivational quotes. I see motivational quotes all the time on the internet. So I thought, well, why not go for it? Why not mine? Right. And so KloobySnacks. So when I looked to figure out if I had 52, and if I had 52, how would I group them or categorize them? I started to get nervous if I'd be able to pull it off because I'm so close to it. But anyway, the smartest thing I did, it was ask my daughter for help. And I took an inferior posture. I was sitting down and she was standing up. I asked her if she'd help me. And it turns out I had over 100, and she helped me get it down to the 52 that resonated with her, that she thought she could write about, or that sounded familiar to her. She latched on to this collection of motivational quotes for one reason or another. And then the project just took off. Like, she was more invested in it than just helping me get down to 52. She wanted to write. She wanted to be involved. And I just made space for her, as much involvement in the project as she wanted it. It took a life of its own, and so much of it is her genius and her genius. Because the original KloobySnack is my wife's homemade cookies, and then so I used to say all the time, a KloobySnack is either my wife's homemade cookies or my motivational quotes. And and she's getting ready to go to college. So that it was last fall, and we're feeling that about to cut the umbilical cord energy, and the whole theme of baking and passing down the family recipe before she goes off to college. And it was a way for us to have a lot of fun and also honor Marianne. And Marianne wrote the foreword to the book, which is very simply the recipe for KloobySnacks. So if you want to get the homemade recipe for KloobySnacks, there it is in the book. And then we organized, I say all that to say this, we organized all 52 into baker's dozens to stay with the baker's theme. And she had the concept for us, the cartoon versions of us, the playful, silly, jovial character versions of us on the cover, looking down at different snacks, color coordinated by the baker's dozens. So at this stage of the year, we're in our third baker's dozen. We started off the year with loving flavored KloobySnacks. Then we moved on to ego flavored KloobySnacks. And now we're in discipline flavored KloobySnacks. So I'm going to do a brief review of the snacks that we've covered so far. When Abby was with me, I used to pull them up, and I can show them to you real quick using the banners down here. So essentially starting with the first snack of this section, number 27, we judge ourselves by intent while others judge their actions. We judge others by their actions. Excuse me. And then number 28, the biggest problem with apology and forgiveness is the guilty verdict they both require. I'm going to be like, eating my own snacks, taking some of my own medicine on this. I'm going to be reaching out to somebody I love dearly, and I'm going to be offering apology. And I see that as the most loving thing to do, the most disciplined thing to do. And it's interesting. Surgeons don't operate on themselves, is what KloobySnack somewhere in the book. And I can author these thought-provoking gems, but when it comes to us living it, I'm a human being too. So anyway, I just want everybody to know I'm going to be eating some of my own medicine very soon on this particular KloobySnack in particular with somebody I love dearly. All right, number 29, the road to mastery is paved with fundamentals. This is what we covered last week, and that brings us to this week's KloobySnack. Now, normally, if you're just joining or just watching this for the very first time, normally I read the quote, what the motivational quote is, and then Abby reads her word-for-word response. So now I'm at the fork in the road where, I've got a backup plan, and I'll explain that in a second. But should I read Abby's response, or should I wait till next week and let her read her own response? I think I'm going to go for it and see what it's like, if it's tongue-tying or awkward to try to voice her thoughts in her words. But let's go ahead and give it a try. Number 30, the only mistake to be afraid of is the mistake we don't learn from. So let me go ahead and not leave. Let me stay. I want to screen share so you guys can follow along with me. And let's go ahead and bring this up. And it's starting again. We're in the discipline flavored, Baker's Dozen. So the way that the section starts off, or the Baker's Dozen starts off, is I did write a little intro to the section before we got into the snacks that I just reviewed. Number 27, number 28 last week, number 29, the road to mastery is paved with fundamentals. And now this week's KloobySnack is the only mistake to be afraid of is the mistake we don't learn from. Let me take a sip of carbonated water here. All right, grapefruit. And let me go ahead and try to read this on Abby's behalf. All right. Mistakes cannot be avoided. There's no problem with making mistakes because everybody does. They're unavoidable. Mistakes do become problems when the same mistake is made over and over again. Sometimes Abby will forget to unload the dishwasher when her parents ask her to, which they can excuse. Wait, I'm trying to switch the pronouns around. All right. Which they can excuse me for, but they will sit me down at the dinner table if I don't unload the dishwasher night after night. Repetitive mistakes are where the problems lie. If my friend forgets about our plans once, I won't be irrationally upset, but I'll start questioning the integrity of our friendship when I feel constantly forgotten about. Constantly making mistakes and showing no growth is a reflection of one's integrity. If someone apologizes for their action and promises to change, then proceeds to behave exactly the same, it says something about who they are internally. Making a mistake once or twice is not a bad thing. It is a sign that you're human. Being stuck in a cycle of mistakes, confrontation, and apologies is something to be afraid of. Having those people in your life, the ones that are stuck in apology cycles, gets draining. Wow, that's heavy. Stuck in apology cycles. I've never heard it like that. Bravo, Abby. When choosing the type of people you'd like to surround yourself with, question their ability to learn from and prevent repetitive mistakes. All right, very brief. That's it. All right, little preview for next week. Every job is an inside job. We'll talk about that next week. But how cool. I'm going to look back at that just a little bit more. There's some really cool things that she said here. First of all, we see, like right here, if someone apologizes for their actions and promises to change, then proceeds to behave exactly the same, it says something about who they are internally. Well, this is just a different way of Abby saying quotes that I've seen out there on the internet. I think it goes a little something like, apology without a change in behavior is called manipulation. Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I like what Abby is saying right here. It says something about who they are internally. What's their dialogue? What's their relationship to their word? Maybe they're not intending to manipulate. That might be the outcome. But it's up to us, like Abby says, to be intentional about choosing the type of people we'd like to be around. And this is interesting how her take on this is, if we make the same mistake over and over again, or again, ultimately, if she doesn't learn, she takes it to the next step of changing behavior. There's another approach to this snack, which I think is what I had in mind when I wrote it. One of the cool things about this project with Abby is her take and how she takes it to a different place than what I may have intended. Some of these KloobySnacks I came up with before she was even born. So this is a really fantastic project, the degrees of interpretation, and what we hope is a broad and a wide application. We hope that anybody else, despite what Abby has written or despite what I say about these KloobySnacks, that they can be taken through your filter and help you make sense of things or validate something or provoke a thought or provoke a question or something, right? That's what we're hoping in all of this. And I say all of that to say that this quote is kind of like, this is my alternative plan, is to read something that I actually wrote about this KloobySnack. So for those of you that don't know or aren't on my email list, I've been writing this year a clues letter every week. And it's just something, there's the emails that go out to the database that are from the marketing team. They're talking about the integrity game. They're talking about the events or the group mentoring or the book launches or the book funnels, or the marketing team is coming up with those emails and communicating to the database with the voice of one entity, the marketing team. And then my marketing team suggested, hey, Jeff, write something with your voice from the desk of Jeff Klubeck. And so I've been doing that for the most part. I think I missed a week or two, but for the most part, I've been on top of it every week, writing a clues letter. And so not necessarily knowing, by the way, that Abby wasn't going to be on today, but just it's something I do every week. And so it goes out on Sundays to the database, and it always leads into promoting KloobySnack time. Exactly what we're doing right now. It leads into, hey, KloobySnack number whatever is tonight, meanwhile, so that's the lead in. So I say all of that because I thought, whether Abby was here tonight or not, I was compelled to read to you as part of this recording what I wrote in my clues letter today. And now it becomes clear to me it's part to shine a light on this other perspective on the KloobySnack, which is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Abigail's talking about, are you learning from, are you repeating them? What does it say about you? Are you being manipulative? What's going on? It's very interesting the way she took it. But a lot of what we hear about this type of a KloobySnack, and I'll be the first to admit, and you'll see it in what I wrote, this is really just me wordsmithing what otherwise is a universal truth. I believe that you're already familiar with sayings like this. You have some version of it yourself, as I'll read word for word in a minute. But one, we're going to shine a light on this perspective of should I take a chance? What if I make a mistake? Analysis paralysis. Like, we want to get over that. We want to be fearless. So that's the main intention when I wrote it. But I see what Abigail's interpreting is, does making a mistake result in behavioral change? We kind of stop at the learning, but she's really emphasizing the behavioral change part and the accountability for behavioral change, which I think is mature beyond her years. Now, I do want to share this, what I wrote in my clues letter, because it gives me some time to talk about Brody and another topic that's on my mind. Let me see if I can find it quickly here. Where is it? Let's see. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. So hopefully you can see my screen now. So here's the thing. It's like, I didn't know when I started this project, I thought that I was going to be doing all of the writing for all of the snacks. And Abby's like, no, that's too much. But if I was going to be doing the writing for all the snacks, if Abby didn't want to be involved in the project the way she was, this right here is the type of thing that I might have written in support of tonight's KloobySnack. So, humor me while I read it out loud. All right, here we go. Hi, Jeff. This is what I sent to myself from the database. All right. I believe attention is such an important need for humans, and especially children, that we will find a way to get it one way or another. Sometimes, in fact, we are willing to get hurt, take losses, put ourselves in harm's way, or get into actual trouble to get attention, even if punishment that we mean, I think that might be a typo. Anyway, even if punishment that we may not be getting otherwise, right? The punishment for a mistake is often preferable to the abuse of neglect. Stay with me. I also believe most of this harmful or destructive attention seeking is subconscious. In fact, without going too far down the neuropsycho-emo rabbit hole, I will say I believe that we vibrationally or magnetically attract people and situations into our lives that will produce the experiences and emotions we crave. Parenthetical reference here to the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and specifically to his quotes in the movie or book, What the Bleep Do We Know? Again, attention, especially for children, is one of the strongest human cravings I can imagine. Marianne and I have always noticed the phenomena of our kids getting into trouble at school when either of us has to go out of town. Quote, "What do you want me to do?" is what either of us would say when getting a call from home about what the child had done or needs. Sometimes it's not trouble per se, but an issue or emergency comes up that requires a parent's attention, meaning one of us has to stop working or leave work and attend to it. When we are both in town, somehow these don't occur as often, or the impact isn't as stressful. But when either of us leaves town, magically a parental guidance situation presents itself, and one of us has to deal with it, wishing all the while the other was in town to share the burden. So yesterday afternoon, within 1 hour of AJ completing his last collegiate league baseball game of the summer, and also within 1 hour of Marianne leaving town for Abby's commercial shoot this week in Los Angeles, Brody runs into the house with, drumroll please, a broken arm. There it is. Quote, "I was trying to learn how to ride a skateboard with my friends and I fell," was all I could get out of him through the initial hysteria. The dogs were barking furiously at the neighbor who brought Brody home. The neighbor was trying to calmly but inaudibly explain what happened while the dogs were barking louder than ever. All the while, Brody was crying and screaming after the dogs jumped on him and nearly hyperventilating from the pain he had never experienced before. Suffice to say, he had my attention. A little more graphics here on the broken arm. You can see the break right there. Initially, I felt the anger and stress of the impact, the uncertainty of how bad it was, the noise of the dogs barking, the suspicion of the neighborhood kids, and came very close to yelling at Brody as if anything was his fault. So much of my anger was because Marianne wasn't there, and this was all on me to take care of. Somehow, I was totally aware of all of my, I'm going to slow down here. Somehow, I was totally aware of all of my emotions and self-talk in real time, and I was able to make better decisions than I have in the past. Instead of yelling at Brody for not being careful, I focused on my breathing and the tasks at hand and simply and calmly asked, "Were you being careful?" He calmly and honestly said no, and the learning began for both of us. This is a picture of me in the emergency room with the visitor's pass. Proudly, I found a way to calm my mind, get the neighbor out of the house so the dogs would stop barking, get Brody some Advil, and immediately locked up the house to take him to urgent care, which was closed. So we ended up at the emergency room, and less than 2 hours later, we were home with Brody in a splint, and I even had time to get him some nuggets, fries, and a shake. All things he could eat with one hand. Smiley face indeed. This morning, moments ago as of the writing of this, while writing this clues letter, Brody said, "Dad, I'm really glad you were here." I asked him to elaborate on what he meant, and it came down to his feeling attended to and ultimately safe. As a 12-year-old kid who has watched his parents gush over his older siblings and their successes, it's Brody's turn. It's Brody's time to get the lion's share of our attention. My job as a parent will be to help him cognize a mindfulness for the healthy paths to attention instead of the subconsciously manifested harmful or destructive paths. At the end of the evening, Brody and I had spent 3 hours straight together. Instead of dinner and a movie, it was ER and dinner. But we were together, my mind was like water, and all I had to do was keep asking, "What did you learn?" It's okay. What did you learn? What are you learning? What will you learn as a result of not being careful? Appropriately, this week's KloobySnack number 30 is the fourth from our discipline-flavored Baker's Dozen and goes a little something like this. The only mistakes to be afraid of are the ones we don't learn from. So this week's KloobySnack, like I said, is another wordsmith universal truth. You've most likely been exposed to some version of this message. Many of you have your own way of saying it and your own way of living it. Quote, "Don't be afraid to take chances." Quote, "Give it your best shot." Quote, "You will either succeed or learn." Quote, "It's better to regret something you did than something you didn't do," and so forth. Where Abby and I want to take the conversation is beyond the universal truth of being afraid to make mistakes and into the possibility that there is actually no such thing as a mistake. Just learning wrapped in varying degrees of discomfort. I'll stop sharing and I'll say that part again. What if there's no such thing as a mistake? Just learning, wrapped in varying degrees of discomfort. Don't let the packaging fool you. And for now and for tonight, well, I would say, hey, last call for comments, questions, and so forth. But Abby's not here, and there's no guests or no visitors joining to get into the conversation So I want to thank you for letting me read the Kloo's letter and my thoughts that are timely and relevant, and my ability to tie in what's happening around me and to what I'm doing consistently on a weekly basis with these KloobySnacks. And it's just amazing. You know, every week you live through the KloobySnacks and you begin to see life through KloobySnacks. You begin to interpret life through KloobySnacks. So I hope you're having as much fun with it as I am, as we are. I hope that your thoughts are provoked and you laugh at the jokes, and you don't take yourself too seriously, but you take your opportunity in life very seriously, your opportunity to make an impact for yourself and others. So we hope KloobySnacks is making a difference and helping things along. And that's all I got for this week. We'll see everybody next week. All right. Good night now.